easy going, like barefoot and all, right? But I have to say, though, those who know me, you guys always know that I'm usually barefoot anyways. Like, I don't think people who know me with shoes, because I just don't wear any. But that's just me, so. But I go, those of you guys who do know me know that I'm pretty authentic, so I give my disclosure ahead of time. I have no filter. I cuss. If it bothers you, please let me know. But it's a big group, so even if it bothers you, I'm gonna say, ooh, I'm really, really sorry. Like, just like little kid ears. But I do sometimes cuss, so I'm gonna try to work this because I got this whole stack of books that I'm supposed to like go through. So I'm gonna improvise. I'm gonna improvise because I usually don't do notes. So here we go. Last call, tacos. Last call. Taco lady told me to tell you guys last call 2 minutes ago. 8:15. So if you guys want tacos, show up to the taco lady. I don't do leftovers. So please eat because it's all winter solstice after this, and winter solstice doesn't need any more tacos. Unless Courtney said take it home. All right, here we go. I have my notes. I can't do notes. I'm gonna totally improvise because it's gonna cause me problems. So here we go, guys. So the whole idea behind this is the notion that as children we learn our ABCs, right? You guys remember your ABCs? A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat. And so we learn our ABCs as children, and at some point, as we start to grow older, at some point we no longer learn or keep learning. So I came up with the adult ABCs. So I'm doing A through K today. And the whole idea is at some point is the notion of me, myself, and I. And it's about how to have a healthy relationship with myself. And so I have a book pairing. So the idea is that when you learn your ABCs as children, you're given homework, right? My teacher's over here, I have some teachers over here, and I have a teacher in the back, right? I got a couple teachers here. And you're given homework. And but as adults, we fail to do our homework. We fail at some point to go home, read, have insight and awareness into what our problems really are. And actually, either at some point, read a book, see a therapist to really determine what our issues really are. So I do have a book pairing with every one that I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to do it as quick as possible so I don't run to 9 o'clock and we can still hear the band. But you can find every single one of these books that I'm talking about. You can find them on my website. So if you go to my website under books, it is there, and every single one of them are there. So if I get a chance, I'm going to read just a small quote from each one. If I get a chance. If I run long, I might just skip, but I will hold up the book for you at some point also. Again, the whole idea is to learn our ABCs, book recommendations, so that way we can learn to be good as human beings. Again, if your picker is broken, you find the wrong people to surround yourself with, and at some point life becomes really miserable at some point. So for those of you guys know me, I talk about this notion of synchronicity, that when our road gets really, really bumpy, and it seems like every door seems to close, or the door seems to slam in our face, and we're looking for a window, if the road is bumpy, you're on the wrong road. And I go, but when you know more about yourself, you will know what's wrong with yourself and why the doors keep closing, and you'll look for the window, and you'll go through the window, okay? Here we go. My little piece of paper. Feel great, good. Wait a minute here. All right, number one, accountability. So for those of you guys who know me, I'm a huge believer of own your own shit. Own your own shit. And I go, accountability is really important as a human being because I can't change what I don't own. And I go, so I need to own my shit. I need to know what's wrong with me. I need to be able to pull it out and say at some point, this is my shit, right? So those of you guys who know me, I talk about this all the time. It's either my mommy's shit or my daddy's shit, or growing up at some point of an abandonment issue. And I go, I need to know what's wrong with me. And if I don't know what's wrong with me, I can't change what I can't own. So here's my great book, Telling Yourself the Truth. It's a fantastic book. I recommend it all the time to the people who sit on my wonderful couch, and I go, it's kind of dark, so I'm going to try to read my quote. It says, don't let misbeliefs have any room in your mind without immediately coming against them with the truth. And I go, we have what's called cognitive distortions. We lie to ourselves. It's very easy at some point to tell yourself everything's fine, it's not me, it's you. It's totally you. It's not me. It's you. And I go, we have a natural inclination to blame people. And I go, but the whole idea is to take accountability for your own shit, because when you take accountability for it, you can change what you don't own. All right. I'm going to drop things as I go along. All right. Here we go. Behavior. Another good one. These are all good. I will say, and I will preface the idea, the reason behind all these, I actually chose each one of them myself. And I go, the reason why I chose all of them, I walk my walk. And I go, those of you guys who know me know I walk my walk. And I go, I'm pretty authentic on my couch. I don't mind as a psychologist sharing with my clients, because at some point, I can only take my client as far as I've ever gone. So each one of these steps, I live them, I work my step. Those of you guys from like AA, right? I work my steps, right? So I go, at some point I work my steps, and I go, so each one of these were things that I did right around the age of 29. I was going through a tough time in my life. Everything was kind of failing. I couldn't figure out which way was up. Those of you guys who know me know that I worked at a mortgage company at the time. I was a bill collector. Isn't that fantastic? I was a bill collector. I never wanted to do this job. And so somewhere around the age of 29, I decided to start doing my steps. It was before I became a therapist. So I actually read self-help books. And I would go to Barnes & Noble, and I'd stand there and I would just read the backs of each book. And whatever spoke to me was the book that I actually picked up, bought, and brought home. And I started reading it, and I started doing my own work. So again, each one of these steps are something that I've actually done in my own life. All right, behavior. So the whole idea is it says that I should be focused, productive, and positive. I need to know my morals and my values, and I have to have a platform to stand on. And I go, so the whole idea is I should be proactive in my life. And I go, so the whole idea is to wake up every morning, which is a great book. This one was recommended to me by a client of mine. It's called The Miracle Morning. And it says, start your day out with an intention of how you want to start your day. Move my paper. And I go, so you start yourself out with an intention. So I always say, like my great intern, Andy over there, hold your hand up. He said that depression really is the notion that people are depressing. And they depress their own selves. And I go, so the notion of depression is just sadness. And I go, but it's the way I see my world. And I go, I'm depressed because I don't like where my world is at, and I'm not doing anything to be proactive against it. And so at some point, I'm depressing myself by the way I see my world. And so The Miracle Morning is a really great book, and it talks about what you can do to set your intention for the day. And see if I can read it in the dark. I'm gonna run out of light, guys. All right, in order for you to stop settling for less than you deserve, you must first dedicate time each day to becoming the person you need to be. One who is qualified, capable, and consistently attracting, creating, and sustaining the level of success you want. Great book. And it's really true. So the idea is to be focused and proactive. Thank you. You're amazing. Holy crap. Can you grab my water? Yep. My mouth is getting dry. I have great people. Love my people. Thank you. You're so amazing. This is Jamie. Hey, everybody say hi to Jamie. Hi, guys. Good work, Jamie. Thank you. All right, here we go. Moving on. Challenge yourself. Get out of your box, guys. And I got the whole idea is number C, challenge yourself. Get outside of your box. Jess, we had out of the box night. I met my man 6 years ago because I went to out of the box night. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm really an introvert. Can you believe that? This is so uncomfortable for me to do this. It's so uncomfortable. And I go, I'm out of my box. I do challenge myself to be different every day and to at some point tackle something. So I have a lot of anxiety, and I did the whole cave tour when I was in like Montana where I had to go underground. Yeah, that was not. But we did it. Challenge yourself. Get out of your box. Don't live by your fear. And I go, people who live by their fear have a lot of anxiety. And I go, people with a lot of anxiety, they feel stuck. And the reason they feel stuck is because they're not proactively going against the grain of their uncomfortability-ness. And I go, so if there's a job that you think that you're not qualified for, go out for it. And I go, if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you learned a lesson about how to interview for it. And I go, so there are a lot of things that people fear. And I go, if you fear something, challenge yourself to overcome it. And I go, get out of your box. It's really important. Let me go. My book. Page. All right, great book. So this book is The Wisdom of Insecurity. And I go, we all have insecurities. And I go, even myself. I always say that we're all broken people, right? It's just what you do with it that counts, right? And I go, so we're all a little shy of crazy, even though who say you're not crazy, we're all a little shy of crazy. Every single one of you guys. Every one of you guys is a little shy of crazy. It's what you do with it that counts, right? You should be working on yourself all the time, right? And I go, so here we go. It says, the best pleasure are those for which we do not plan. And the worst part of pain is expecting it and trying to get away from it when it has come. You cannot plan to be happy. You can plan to exist. And I go, get outside of your box and do something different and challenge yourself. Decisions. D. I'm working. Gotta go all the way to K. I'm trying. Decisions. Make decisions. Don't sit stuck. And I go, a lot of what I find in my office are people who sit stuck. And I go, at some point, I'm like, I always encourage them. I'm not supposed to, as a psychologist, give advice, feedback, direction, but I do. And I tell people on my couch, I'm like, if you're going to come in, do something with your life. I don't want people to come in and not want to work on it, right? So I need them to make decisions for themselves. When something's not working for you, I need you to decide to do something different and go outside of your box, own your shit, and at some point do something different. And I go, so the whole idea is, I give the analogy. I do a lot of analogies in my office, and I say at some point I go, don't be a piece of driftwood in the ocean, right? If you ever see a piece of driftwood in the ocean, it comes in and out with the tide. It has no direction and it has no say-so. And I go, you have two choices. You can live life or you can let life live you. And I go, I don't know about you, but I'd rather make decisions for myself than have my life at some point make decisions for me. And I go, because those of you guys who know and you're like, oh, I should really not be with that person. And then they don't do anything and they're with that person. And then all of a sudden that person breaks up with them. We're like, I can't believe that he broke up with me. And I'm like, you should have broke up with him like 4 months ago. Right? Or you should have divorced him like 4 months ago. Or like to stay in a job that's no good for me. And I'm like, at some point, we're not proactive with making decisions. And so life eventually starts to live us. And that's really painful at some point. All right. E, it's my favorite. Best book I ever read. Oh, sorry. I'm not going to go through it, but Decisions. The 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Person. It's a good book. And I go, on my website, right? Did you like it? Right? It's a good book. And I go, it's on my website. Right? And my man's not here, or he would tell you I'm crazy too. But I go, at least you say, hey, I'm married to a therapist. And my man wouldn't even admit it. He won't admit it. He thinks I'm crazy too. I am. I tell him I am. You should sleep with one eye open. Right? All right. My favorite topic, and I don't have enough time to talk about it, but I'm going to breeze through it. Ego. It's my favorite. Those of you guys who know, I specialize in working with men. Nothing particular, men. I love my men. And I specialize in working with men, but sometimes we have a ego. But those of us who are type A women, which are my favorite, and I won't call you out, as I look over somewhere over here. I won't call you out, though. And I go, type A women, we have an ego, too. And I'm like, the whole idea behind the ego is the notion that we're all, and people argue this point, narcissism is not a bad thing, guys, right? And I go, we all have a little bit of narcissism. Narcissism is just a healthy ego. At some point, I go, you believe that you have a gift at some point that is something that is great, that you enjoy, like teachers, psychologists, therapists, no matter what you do. I'm like, if you feel like you do it well, there's a certain sense of ego behind it. So ego is not a bad thing. So when I tell people like you have a certain sense of narcissism, you should have a little bit of narcissism, right? But I go, it's when it becomes the personality disorder. It becomes a big deal, right? That's when you step on people to get ahead. That's when at some point you exploit other people. And at some point that you have no problem at some point belittling somebody to actually get ahead. Those are like sometimes your CEOs of companies, presidents, those types of things. At some point, like they step on people to get ahead. And I go, the whole idea at some point is to keep yourself. The ego keeps you from seeing the truth, right? It allows you at some point to think you're better than. And I go, so those of you guys who know me, I stay humble. And I go, humble allows me to seek feedback in my life. And I go, I don't always think that I know exactly what I'm doing. And I go, so I seek feedback often. Hey, do you like me? Am I doing a great job? Do you like me as a therapist? Where's my cord? Am I a good mom? If you ever want to know you're a good mom, ask your kid, right? If you ever want to know if you're a good wife, ask your husband. If you want to know if you're a good husband, ask your wife. Ask your wife. Right? And I go, or your girlfriend, boyfriend, right? And I go, that's the whole idea, right? So I go, ask for feedback. How am I doing? And I go, it will change your life to stay humble, because I go, other people who know you, and if you stay open to the feedback, you actually grow when you don't let your ego get in the way. And I go, I'm going to read my little piece from my ego book. So this actually, for those of you guys who know me, I talk about this one all the time. This is one of my favorite books. I have 2 books that I'm talking about today that are my favorite. Ego is the Enemy is one of my favorite books. And I go, I encourage you guys to read it. It talks about the notion of learning to be humble, because it'll allow yourself to grow. It says, pride blunts the very instrument we need to own in order to succeed, which is our mind. Our ability to learn, to adapt, to be flexible, to build relationships. All of this is dulled by pride. Pride gets in the way. My favorite book on my website. Forgiveness. Oh, it's my favorite topic, guys, forgiveness. And I have two. The idea of I go, A, I had to forgive myself, but and then B, I have to forgive the other people around me, right? So, and I'm sorry, I'm like, I don't mean to offend. Like, so the other book that I read that really changed my life, it's more of a Christian book, so bear with me, guys. I don't mean to offend anybody. But it's a Christian book that I read years ago. And it says, your scars are beautiful to God. I mean, it was a really great book. And I go, for those of you guys who know me, that I made a lot of bad decisions in my life, but I was wounded a lot as a child growing up by my mom and my sister. And at some point when I reached 29, the first thing I needed to do was forgive myself for all the bad decisions I made in my life, for all the wrongdoings that I've done, for the people that I've hurt. And so I needed to really forgive myself first. And I go, it's a really humbling experience to learn that everything that we've done in our life is a succession of steps. And so everything that I failed at, didn't do well, things that I made bad decisions on, I go, they were steps that actually got me to stand here today. And so for those of you guys who know me, you know I talk about it all the time, that just because I sit in this chair doesn't mean that I'm perfect. It doesn't mean that I have everything all together. I'm human. I make mistakes, and I go, but I work on myself every day. I don't mean that wholeheartedly. I work on myself every day. I want to be better today than I was yesterday. But it starts with forgiving yourself, because we're our own hardest critic. And I go, if you've noticed, like I hear that all the time. I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like I'm no good. I feel like nobody loves me. And I'm like, but it goes back to what Andy says, that at some point, if I want to see my life negative, I'm going to depress myself, because I'm my own hardest critic. So it begins with forgiving yourself first. And I go, this is a really good book. There we go. So, but the other part is, oh my God, it's so hard to forgive the other. It's so hard. It's so hard. How many of you guys know that it's so hard to forgive people who have wronged us? And I go, I bet you there's nobody in this parking lot who has not been seriously wronged by somebody. Right? Right? Anybody want to tell me no? You want to tell me no? So anyways, I'm not going to go through it, but I go, there's a thing that talks about this whole notion of forgiveness, right? And forgiving this notion of the other. Let me pull it up. Hold on a second. So the whole idea is, as a psychologist, I have a different understanding of forgiveness. So the notion of forgiveness for me is this idea that I'm not going to forget what you've done and how you've hurt me. I forgive the feelings that I feel against you, who's wronged me. So I harbor no bitterness, no resentment, no anger, no nothing. I really, at some point, forgiveness is letting it go. And I go, but I don't have to forget what you've done. And so people have this notion, whether it's a Christian notion or whatever, that this idea of forgiveness says that at some point I'm going to forgive and forget. You guys all know we never forget. And I go, the whole idea is you don't need to forget. You just need to forgive the feelings that you feel towards the person who's wronged you, because you can't put those feelings in your backpack and think you're going to carry them through life and they not affect you as you walk through this life. Because if we do what's called psychological projection, right? If I'm mad at my mom, and I'm not dealing with my mom, guess who gets my shit? My man. I don't know why. But I go, you're going to project it onto the person closest to you. And I go, the whole idea is to not carry it in your backpack, because it serves no purpose. But at some point, too, if you're in a relationship with somebody, the whole notion of being able to say, I'm sorry, I go, it comes with a certain set of 5 guidelines, right? So now I'm going to switch this notion of, after I've forgiven myself, and after I've forgiven you, we all know that at some point we've wronged people in our own life, right? So the whole idea of the 5, this is a really great book. Let me pull it out. Hold on, if I forget. The 5 languages of apology, right? For those of you guys who are in relationships, it goes along with the 5 love languages, right? And everybody talks about that all the time. I'm like, dude, I could do that one in 5 minutes on my couch, right? You don't even have to read the book, right? But I go, same thing with this one. You don't even have to read the book, right? And I go, page number, I don't even know what it is, right before chapter 1. It sums it up beautifully. And I go, in order to apologize to the other, I actually have to express regret. I actually have to say I'm sorry and mean it, right? How many of you guys have been in a relationship and they go, hey, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I've wronged you, right? Oh my God, that's not genuine. And I go, so the other one is accepting responsibility. In order to apologize to the other, I actually have to accept responsibility, which is that whole own my shit. I always goes back to own your shit. That's the only thing I can never go back to. Everything is just own your shit, right? And I go, so I have to actually own my shit. So I have to actually say, hey, by the way, I'm sorry because I was wrong. Ooh, that's really hard to say. I was wrong. But I go, if I don't say that I was wrong, I'm actually not genuinely apologizing, because I really should admit at some point that I was wrong. But people have a hard time. They do that whole notion of right and wrong. Like, I don't want to be wrong, because if I'm wrong, you're right. And if you're right, then I'm a loser. And I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. But I go, the whole idea is at some point admit I was wrong. And then I need to make restitution. What can I do to make it right? And I go, at some point I go, hey, I'm really, really sorry because I called you a bad name. And I go, hey, how do I make this right? Like, what can I do at some point to get you to not be mad or to trust me or whatever? And I go, so I have to make restitution. And then fourthly, I have to genuinely repent. I'll try not to do that again. You hear it all the time. I go, I promise I won't do that again. I'm so sorry, I won't do that again. I promise, right? And I'm like, I see that on my couch all the time. And I'm like, somebody will say, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry again. Sorry. I won't do it again, I promise. This time's the last time, I promise. And then they do it again. And then it's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to go. All right, and the last one, requesting forgiveness. Will you please forgive me? I think that's a really important step. And I go, at some point, if I've admitted that I'm wrong and I want to make restitution, I should at some point, what did I say? Hold on. Please forgive me. And I go, hey, do you forgive me? And I think that's really important, because I go, a lot of the time there's no verbal confirmation at the end, because I usually tell my couples, because I'm known for marriage counseling, which is tough. It's really tough. And I go, but I'm known for marriage counseling. And I go, hey, by the way, if we haven't embraced at the end and you haven't kissed me and told me you love me and look in my eyes, I'm going to harbor it. And I go, it's not over. And I go, you really seriously have to go, hey, do you forgive me? And I go, yes, I do forgive you. And I go, okay. And then I go in for an embrace and a kiss. And at some point we look at each other's eyes and I really know that we're done. Because if we don't have that last final step, I'm going to put it in my back pocket and I'm slam on the next one. Hey, do you remember that time you wronged me 4.5 years ago at Chili's at 7:20? Right. You should not. That's what people do. They remember everything. Who said it? Right? It's so true. And my women do it all the time. And they're sitting there and all of a sudden the man goes, I don't know where she pulled that one out of. I'm like, dude, her back pocket and she's got 20 more. They do. They totally do. It's funny. I have a good time with marriage counseling. All right, here's my favorite one. Grieving, right? And I don't mean grieving like sadness because somebody died, but I mean grieving the death of the dream. And I go, a lot of times we have this notion that we have this set plan for our life. And I'm like, oh, till death do us part. And I've got this whole notion that we're going to get married and have kids. Or I have this dream that at some point, like me, at some point that I was going to go be this really great journalist in Boston and be like Barbara Walters. I had to grieve the death of the dream. And I go, because it wasn't my journey in this life. But a lot of people get stuck. And they don't want to let go of the dream that they felt like they were supposed to have. And I go, it really hinders them from moving forward because they just don't see that there's another path for them. And I go, the really important thing is to grieve the death of the dream. Do you guys know what I mean by grieving the death? That's not my life and that's not my lot. But I go, something else is going to come about. So those of you guys who knew me from way back in the day, the mortgage company, right? My pseudo family right here in front of me, which I love, right? Because my mom and dad are, yeah, that's all. That's my mom and dad. And I go, so the whole notion is I go, if you don't grieve the death of the dream, you don't see what's going to come your way. And I'm like, those of you guys who know me, I would have never in a million years, I'd be sitting here with all you people. Never. Like, this is my wildest dreams. I would have never. And I go, grieve the death of the dream, because when you do, all the doors will open up to where you're supposed to go. Oh, good book. Grieving the Death of the Dream. Sorry, it's more Buddhist, but it is still a great book, I promise. It says going to pieces without falling apart. And it really is a phenomenal book. And it really did. And I go, for those of you guys who know me, I actually read all the time. So every single book that I'm talking about, I've read, highlighted, marked the pages, don't circle, and keep them, because you'll go back to them over and over again. And it says people are afraid to face the old sadness that lurks in their bodies and the psyches, and that date from failure in the past. They are afraid to face them, but they are plagued by a sense of falseness if they do not. And so they feel stuck. And I go, grieve the death of the dream and allow yourself at some point to be open for whatever's going to come your way. Good book. Almost done. I'm working. Only got a couple more. Honesty. Woo. Here we go. Honesty. Two things of honesty. I gotta be honest to myself and honest to you, right? And I go, we have what's called cognitive distortions. You'd be amazed about how many people sit on my couch and they tell me stories about how they see their world. Everybody has a cognitive distortion at some point about how they see their world, and they have a personal ideology, right? People can talk themselves into the craziest shit. And I go, and they believe it. Crazy enough, I could tell you some stories. Invite me to your party. I'm the party favor. I'm like, I got stories upon stories. And I go, people believe their shit. And I go, the whole idea is if you're not honest with yourself, again, you can't change it if you don't own your shit, right? But the other thing that I see more often than not being honest with yourself is the notion of honesty to the other. And I go, a lot of the times we're not honest with the people around us. There's a really great book, and I don't have it here because I use it for marriage counseling. It's called Love Busters. Those of you guys who know me know that I recommend it all the time. There's a chapter that says you have to fully inform the other person about how you feel, because if you do not fully inform me, I have no clue. You need to fully inform me how you feel. And I go, but people are so afraid of hurting other people's feelings, but you can do it respectfully. You can say, hey, sweetie, honey, love, right? I mean, you can preface it with anything. And I'm like, hey, I don't want to fight, but, right? And I'm like, but I go, you have to learn at some point to be honest to the other person and fully inform other people about how you feel. So there's a really good book. It's called Radical Honesty. And I'm going to, real quick, just... the source of personal power is in the ability to interrupt your own mind. And since having things to hide keeps you in your racing mind and keeps it racing, you have to reveal what you have hidden. So those of you guys who know, like I specialize in anxiety, the more you hold on to your secrets and the more you don't fully inform other people about how you feel, it lurks in your shadow and it comes out in some funky ways. And I go, secrets are no good. And I go, please fully inform people and be honest with yourself. All right. I had it alphabetically wrong, so let's skip all that one. Insight. All right, I'm gonna move on really quick. I'm moving quicker. All right, because I'm almost out of time. Insight and awareness, right? So the understanding of insight. You guys, you can't change your life if you don't know and you don't read. So I go, please read. And I go, I tell my clients all the time, I will not change your life 1 hour a week on my couch. I'd love to say I have a magic wand, but I don't. So I send all my clients home with reading material. I need them to read. Because if they don't read, they'll never change their life. So insight is everything. And I go, be willing to go stop by a self-help book, use Amazon, whatever you think you're struggling with, there's a book for everything. And if you don't like the book, find another one. Because there are plenty. But this one's a great one, The Gifts of Imperfection. Everybody knows Brene Brown. Most of my women know. And I go, she's fantastic. You can find anything on YouTube. She's fantastic. But it is a really great book. All right. Journey. And I go, we all have a journey. Who do you surround yourself with on your journey? And I go, people have a knack of surrounding themselves with the wrong people. And I go, what's that whole phrase, birds of a feather flock together? If you're going somewhere and your friends aren't, wrong group. At some point, if you're married and in a happy marriage and you want to hang around with a person who's miserable in their marriage, wrong group. And I go, we all have a journey. And what you do on your journey is a succession of steps. And I go, don't give up on your journey. I have a lot of people who come into my office and they're like, oh, my life hasn't turned out the way I wanted it to turn out. And I go, the whole idea is I'm like, life is a journey. And I go, if you get off the roller coaster ride before the ride is over, that kind of sucks. Because I go, it's going to have ups and downs, and you're supposed to stay on the ride. Because everything in your life at some point will change as you go along. If you're making positive decisions for yourself, challenging yourself, taking accountability, owning your behaviors. I mean, all of the ones that I'm going through are literally everything you need on your journey. And I go, so take the journey, but surround yourself with the right people. So a really great book is The Power of the Other. And it really does talk about this notion that we as human beings surround ourselves with other people because we have a natural capacity to be in relationship with the other. And I go, but we surround ourselves with the wrong people. And I go, so put good people in your life. Those of you guys are here, good people, right? All right. Last and final. You guys are all tired to hear about me. So, all right. Best one. Here's my kid. Where's my kid? She embodies kindness. She so convicts me because some days I'm in a really bad mood. Those of you guys who know me. And I wake up and I want my coffee and I'm like, oh, here we go. I start my day. And I go, my kid always, Courtney, she's amazing. And I go, she's one of those who's like, Renee, you need to be happy, positive, kind to other people. I go through Starbucks and I'm like, do you just want coffee? And the lady's like, good morning, how are you? And I'm like, just take my small latte. And Courtney's like, Mom, say good morning. And I'm like, good morning, right? And so she's like, Mom, you should be nice to them. And I'm like, good morning. I got my coffee. But I go, Courtney, she's just joyful. And I go, kindness. So This one was foreign to me. I actually should read the notes on this one. And I go, oh yeah. So I talk about this all the time, this whole notion of role modeling, right? And I go, at some point, I should role model a great behavior. So if I'm in relationship with the other, and at some point I'm kind, at some point if you're mean to me, I can stand on a platform and say, hey, by the way, I wouldn't treat you that way, so please don't treat me this way, right? But if I'm the one who's being mean to you, calling you names, at some point I don't have a platform to stand on. So the whole idea is to role model really great behaviors and work on changing your mood. I work on it all the time because she convicts me, and I try to be positive in my mind. I'm like, hey, be nice. And I go say hello and greet. The other day I had some guy, and I'm walking through Kohl's, and I'm like, hey man, it's a good day outside. It's a good day outside. It's a good day outside. And I'm walking all the way to the back because they told me I could go to the front to pay. I was a little mad when I had to go all the way to the back. And I go, so kindness. And I go, I'm gonna end with this. And so the band can play their final song. And I go, the whole idea about kindness is when you have kindness, and it is crazy. This is my thing. I'm gonna convict myself and tell you guys I struggle with kindness because I'm an introvert. I don't like people sometimes. And I go, here's it. It says, if you're kind, crazy enough, it'll say you get confidence and self-appreciation, a sense of inner peace. And I'm like, the respect of others. You have less stress. I need that. Less stress, less drama and conflict. Do you know how many people I see on my couch that have so much conflict? And I'm like, oh my God, if you were just nice, right? You wouldn't have all this, right? And then they're like, it's her fault, his fault. You'd have less anxiety and depression and authentic happiness. Ooh. And I go, I encourage you guys to be kind. And I go, it is something that I do work on often to change myself. So that's my A through K